There's no doubt about who the rock star is in Italy these days. The gift shops in the airport filled with Pope paraphernalia, mugs, matchboxes, anything you want, with the Pope's picture on it.
Well, certainly Francis is making things shake in the Vatican, and he's mixing things up in incredible ways. And it's inspiring to see him have an effect in the culture, just beyond Catholics.
He's also shaking things up here in this country, and some American Catholics, particularly those who feel that the mission of Catholics is to elect Republicans to the Congress, don't quite know how to handle this Pope, it seems. I want to get to that in just a second, but the Pope is also kind of putting his money where his mouth is, in the sense that the last story I saw, that he is actually, because when he was Archbishop down in
Buenos Aires,
he actually would go out at night and serve the poor and help the poor and take food to the poor. I mean, he not just talked about it, he did it. He can't do that as Pope, obviously. But he's sending the Swiss Guard out in the streets of Rome to do this at night?
To minister to the needs of the most vulnerable on the streets of Rome. It's amazing that we finally have a religious leader who is talking and acting like Jesus for the first time in my lifetime.
How radical, right?
It's amazing.
I mean, how revolutionary, yes. Right? So when he says, we should be caring for the poor and serving the poor and ministering to the poor, he not only says it, he believes it, and he does it.
And he's doing it, and it's having an effect, and it's changing the political discourse, not only in this country but around the world.
But do you think it will inspire other bishops, other priests to do the same?
Well,
who are not always known for their following through, let's say?
He's certainly, moving the pendulum back to where it should be, which is on the side of the most vulnerable in society. But frankly, too many American Catholic bishops have been captured by some far-right ideology, and this is, certainly difficult for them to swallow. But we're beginning to see signs of it. Just on Sunday, Cardinal Dolan was on Meet the Press talking about how Republicans are standing in the way of immigration reform with some forceful language. So, we're starting to see bishops act and sound a little bit different, but still there's quite a distance to go yet.
At the same time, it's true, Republicans standing in the way of immigration reform, and the Catholic Church has been very good on that issue. Even Roger Mahoney in Los Angeles, a leader on that issue when he's been off the reservation on some other issues. That's right. Notably the sexual abuse issue. But Cardinal Dolan is also, the American bishops have stood in the way of Obamacare, have stood in the way of universal health care, which was something the church always supported until President Obama includes contraception as an option, not a necessity, right? Just as an option. And in this case, the church is being obstructionist itself.
Yeah,
American Catholic bishops,
yes,
I should say.
The bishops are still in the way on greater access to contraception for all women in America, and that's
therefore to health care for all Americans.
Correct, and that's still problematic. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Catholics on the front lines of serving the most vulnerable, in this country, whether it be soup kitchens or hospitals. So it's the lay folks who are out there doing the work of mercy, while we leave the politics to the bishops.
Well, maybe we ought to take the politics away from the bishops there. That's just a suggestion. The other thing that I thought where the Pope really kind of woke people up is where he came out a week or so ago with a very strong blast at the concept or the idea of trickle-down economics.
It was a zinger. Yeah, he directly attacked one of the reigning ideologies of the right wing in this country, which is that if you give more power, more wealth to the most powerful, it'll trickle down in some way to those who are less powerful. And Pope Francis says, that is a theory without factual basis, and the poor are still waiting for their trickle-down economics.
They're waiting for the trickle, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
It hasn't come, and it never will.
Right.
But I want to say something, Bill.
He called it, what the phrase that he used, the idolatry of money, which is a very powerful phrase. And it is true, because probably before, but certainly since the days of Ronald Reagan, this has been the guiding light of the Republican Party, right? And no better exemplified than under George W. Bush, and his 2 rounds of tax cuts for the wealthiest of Americans, the wealthiest 2% of Americans, and the idea that if you help them out and give them more tax breaks and more money, that everybody is going to benefit. It is never, never, never proven true. And the Pope just said, let's face it, this is BS.
Complete nonsense. I want to say, religion's gotten a bad rap in many respects. Truth be told, historically, faith has played an important role in some of the most important progressive social reforms in our history, whether it be civil rights or environmental stewardship.
Absolutely. When you look at the social encyclicals, of the popes, Pius X and the others, I mean, when they're talking about living wage, right?
That's right.
Unions, and I mean,
but it's only recently, in the last 20 years, that it's become associated with a right-wing political agenda like opposition to contraception or abortion. Historically, religion has been on the forefront of positive social reforms. Yeah, and I think what we're starting to see with Pope Francis is a voice coming back with strong moral urgency around one of the most important issues of our day, which is income inequality. So here we have a religious leader coming back to a first principle, one of the most important social reforms that we can address, which is growing inequality. And for me, that's incredibly refreshing. It heartens me to see that religion can play a positive force in our world, and while at the same time reminding people like Paul Ryan that you cannot credibly claim to be Catholic while systematically attacking programs that serve the most vulnerable and the poor.
So others have written about this too. So there's no doubt, I agree with you, as a Catholic, as a former seminarian, the Pope is bringing the church back to basic principles, back to the Gospels. That's his purpose, that's his mission. He's also up against a big, entrenched bureaucracy, not just the American Catholic bishops, but the Vatican bureaucracy that thinks just the opposite, right?
That's right. But
now, can he overcome that?
Well, he's not pulling any punches. I mean, we've seen him make news now for multiple months in a row simply by saying what he thinks in very forceful, honest language. So, he can't change those immediately below him, but he's changing the culture around him. He's going around him in many respects and speaking directly to folks through the media and inspiring, millions of people worldwide. So
I want to ask you to see if you agree with me. When I heard the Pope say, the first thing where he really kind of made some headlines, I think, is when he said that, I'm paraphrasing here, obviously, that too many priests and too many bishops spend too much time talking about abortion and same-sex marriage and not enough time talking about the poor. To me, that was a direct shot at Cardinal Dolan and the American bishops, whom we never hear from except on those two issues. Would you agree?
You're absolutely right. I mean, the American Catholic Church has been captured. It's almost a subset of the Republican Party, you could argue, in many respects, because it seems to only care about those things which align with a right-wing political agenda. The amazing thing for me, though, is having read the Gospels, having actually read the teachings of Jesus Christ, it's overwhelmingly clear in the Gospel of Jesus that he cares about poor people. Yet how is it that in the last 25 years...
He said that. I mean, he spent his time that way. I mean, you're absolutely right.
How has that been lost, until now with Pope Francis? It amazes me how much the American Catholic Church has been captured.
So what and even Ross Duhat in the New York Times this morning has a column about this. Conservative American Catholics don't know how to deal with this guy, do they?
They don't, and they're making things up. I mean, I read that column where they talk about income inequality actually diminishing around the world, and it's nonsense. That everyone knows that the largest, most powerful sectors in the economy, the banking sector, are only growing in power and in wealth. The wealthy are getting wealthier, and it's amazing that we finally have a religious leader who's starting to call that out.